There was only one empty chair left in the restaurant, and it stayed empty for almost an hour. A single dad sat at the table with nervous hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. He checked the entrance every few seconds, straightened the collar of the only nice shirt he owned, and forced himself to smile whenever the door opened. But every stranger who walked inside was another reminder that the woman he had waited weeks to meet was never coming. Just as he quietly reached for the bill and accepted another heartbreaking disappointment, a young waitress placed the receipt aside, gently pulled out the empty chair across from him, sat down, and looked into his tired eyes with a strange mixture of sadness and warmth. She whispered that she knew his story long before he ever walked through that door, and in that single moment, the evening changed in a way either of them could have imagined. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Soul Tales. Every small act of support helps us bring more emotional stories that remind the world hope still exists. Daniel had never imagined that loneliness could become so familiar. At 36 years old, he wasn't afraid of hard work, long hours, or sleepless nights. Those had become part of his life after his wife passed away following a sudden illness that stole her away far too soon. What frightened him most was the silence waiting for him every evening after putting his 7-year-old daughter Lily to bed. During the day he worked as a maintenance technician, fixing broken air conditioners and repairing old buildings. His hands were rough from years of labor, but they were always gentle whenever they braided Lily's hair before school or tucked her favorite blanket around her shoulders at night. She had become his reason for waking up every morning, yet he quietly wondered if he had forgotten how to live for himself. Friends had encouraged Daniel to start over. For years he refused every suggestion, believing no one could ever understand the life he carried. Then one evening Lily innocently asked whether every family deserved two people to cheer during school events because she noticed most of her classmates had both parents sitting together. She wasn't asking for a replacement mother. She simply wished her father didn't always look so lonely when everyone else had someone beside them. Her words settled deep inside Daniel's heart. Weeks later, after endless hesitation, he agreed to a blind date arranged by an old coworker who promised he had finally met someone kind enough to appreciate the man behind the exhaustion. Daniel spent days preparing for the evening. He borrowed a navy blazer from his older brother because buying one wasn't possible while balancing rent, groceries, school supplies, and hospital bills that still lingered from years before. Lily carefully picked out a blue tie because she said it matched his eyes. Before leaving, she hugged him tightly and whispered that she hoped he would smile a lot tonight because she missed seeing his real smile. Those simple words gave him courage as he walked into the small neighborhood restaurant where the reservation had been made. At first, Hope felt surprisingly comfortable. Every passing minute carried excitement instead of fear. Then 20 minutes became 40. 40 became 60. Messages remained unread. Calls went unanswered. Eventually Daniel understood the painful truth that his date had chosen not to come. Embarrassment settled over him like a heavy blanket. He noticed other couples laughing, sharing meals, and making plans while he sat alone pretending to study the menu so no one would notice he had been abandoned. The loneliness he had spent years hiding suddenly returned with greater force than ever before. The waitress serving his table had quietly watched everything from a distance. Her name was Emma, and unlike everyone else, she wasn't looking at him with pity. She saw the careful way he folded Lily's crayon drawing that had accidentally slipped from his wallet onto the table. She noticed how he smiled at the drawing before wiping away a tear when he believed no one was watching. When the restaurant became less busy, Emma carried his bill to the table but never placed it in front of him. Instead, she sat down across from him and gently told him she already knew his story. Daniel looked confused. They had never met before. Yet Emma calmly explained that several years earlier she had been a frightened teenager working late nights while trying to finish college. One rainy evening her elderly father had collapsed outside the apartment building where Daniel happened to be repairing a broken heating system. Without asking for recognition, Daniel stayed with the old man, called emergency services, paid for a taxi to the hospital when the ambulance was delayed, and quietly disappeared before anyone could thank him. Emma had searched for the stranger for months but never learned his name. Only recently had she recognized him after seeing his picture on the reservation list provided for the blind date. She had planned to thank him after his dinner, never expecting the evening to unfold the way it did. Daniel barely remembered the incident. Helping someone had seemed like the natural thing to do. He had never imagined that one forgotten act of kindness had remained unforgettable to someone else. Emma admitted that her father survived that night because of those extra minutes Daniel gave a stranger. He lived long enough to see her graduate, watch her begin her nursing studies, and remind her every birthday that one good man had changed their family's future without asking for anything in return. For the first time in years, Daniel realized his life had mattered in ways he had never seen. While he spent so much time believing he had nothing left to offer beyond providing for Lily, someone else had been carrying gratitude because of a simple decision he had made years before. Emma wasn't interested in replacing his painful memories or pretending everything would suddenly become perfect. Instead, she reminded him that broken hearts often continue healing long after they believe healing has stopped. Sometimes life quietly prepares answers through people we never expect. The weeks that followed surprised them both. Emma occasionally visited the community park where Lily loved feeding ducks after school. Their friendship grew naturally through conversations about family, loss, responsibility, and hope. There was no dramatic romance rushing ahead. Instead, trust slowly replaced loneliness. Lily admired Emma because she listened instead of trying to impress anyone. Emma admired Daniel because he remained humble despite every hardship life had placed before him. She often noticed him helping elderly neighbors carry groceries, repairing playground benches for free, and fixing broken bicycles for neighborhood children without accepting payment. Months later, the same restaurant hosted a charity dinner supporting single-parent families. Emma convinced Daniel to attend, not as someone waiting for another date, but as a volunteer helping others. During the evening, dozens of parents shared stories of struggle, sacrifice, and resilience. Daniel spoke briefly about how easy it is to believe nobody notices quiet kindness, yet every unseen act plants seeds that may bloom years later. His words moved the audience to tears because they carried the weight of genuine experience rather than perfect advice. As he looked around the room, Daniel realized something extraordinary. The blind date that never arrived had once felt like proof that happiness wasn't meant for him. Now he understood it had simply made space for a meeting life had planned long before either of them realized it. The greatest blessings often enter through doors opened by disappointment. If that first woman had arrived on time, Emma might never have found the courage to thank the man who had unknowingly saved her family, and Daniel might have continued believing he was invisible. If this story is touching your heart so far, please write. Kindness always finds its way back. In the comments. We'd love to know where you're watching from and whether you've ever experienced an unexpected act of kindness that changed your life. As seasons passed, Daniel's home slowly filled with something that had been missing for years, not perfection, but peace. Lily laughed more often. Daniel smiled without forcing it. Emma continued pursuing her dream of becoming a nurse while remaining a steady presence in their lives. None of them forgot the pain that had shaped them, yet they no longer allowed that pain to define their future. Together they proved that healing doesn't erase scars. It simply teaches us that scars can become reminders of survival instead of suffering. Before we end, if this story touched your heart, inspired you, or reminded you to never give up on kindness and second chances, please like this video, share it with your family and friends, leave a heartfelt comment below, and subscribe to Soul Tales. Your support allows these stories of hope, love, and compassion to reach people who may need them the most. Sometimes the person who never shows up isn't the one who changes your life. Sometimes the stranger quietly watching from across the room is carrying a piece of your story that you never knew existed. And sometimes the greatest miracle isn't finding the love you expected, it is discovering that the kindness you gave away years ago never disappeared. It simply waited for the perfect moment to find its way home.